Welcome to the High Performance Man podcast. I am your host, John Fayocavitz. On this show, I interview successful men who have built impressive careers in businesses, founders, CEOs, senior leaders, and professionals who have operated at a high level for years. We talk about what actually makes them successful. The goal is simple: to learn directly from men who have done it so we can apply those insights in our own careers, businesses, and lives and continue raising our own standard of performance. The show is sponsored by the Prime Performance Method. The Prime Performance Method is designed specifically for high-performing men who have achieved success in their careers but feel like their body and energy have taken a hit along the way. I help busy professional men regain strength, lose weight, and feel younger within 8 weeks without long workouts, extreme dieting, or disrupting their schedule. If you are a high-performing man who wants to feel as strong and energized as you are successful, message me, John Fayocavitz, on LinkedIn. On today's show, we have Greg Zlevor, who's the president and founder of Westwood International and HopeMakers, where he designs and runs leadership programs for global companies. Thank you very much for joining us today, Greg.
Great to be here.
Okay, and our first question. What is the most important lesson you've learned so far that has helped you become successful in your business?
Well, it's hard to point just to one thing, John.
Well, give the top two, three, whatever it takes. It doesn't have to be pigeonholed to one.
I think one, it's getting a good network and building relationships.
Okay.
So, and then two, to build those relationships, just care about the people you meet and what matters to them. And three, so that I can listen and be present, spend time every day meditating and or doing things that allow me to be present during the day so I can listen and hear what people are saying, so I can really do what matters to them, which ironically allows me to build good relationships. So those things are the keys that I've learned through my work.
So the biggest take that I would say that our audience would take is building that relationship.
Yeah, building the relationship. Correct.
Okay, is building. And do you see that is your business through word of mouth then after that? If you build, is it, or do you do marketing of any sort?
I do some marketing, but not much. It's mostly through presentations, and speaking engagements and referrals.
Okay, great. That's good to hear. Okay, so what do you think hinders a lot of men today from reaching their full potential?
Well, I don't consider my expert on like men in general. So
Okay.
I'll just share a couple of opinions.
Sure.
I think one, as soon as something shows up, i.e. a challenge, a difficulty, a hurdle, is avoiding it, running away from it, or blaming someone else for it.
That is huge.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the big problems we have. I think two, finding something to really serve, like something bigger than ourselves, I think becomes really important. And three, not taking things so personally, right? Especially in competitive situations. I mean, you're a coach.
Yep.
So you see how many players and athletes get derailed when they take what's happening on the court personally.
Right. Well, it's something that you bring that up. I just tell my kids, we have a spring break right now, and we had our last game on Thursday of last week. And it's just so that is my speech to them when we watch film.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When we're watching film, I got to critique them. Okay. And I have to let them know what they're doing wrong. And that's the exact words that I use. Don't take it personal.
Yeah.
I'm here to make you better. I'm not here to cut you down. I'm not trying to do that. It's just trying to get our team better through critiquing. And if you can't handle, and I tell them this, if you can't handle this at this age, what are you going to do as we grow older and you get more obstacles?
Right. Yeah. And when I'm coaching leaders, and I'm giving them feedback,
Uh-huh.
I observe them in a meeting, etc. I'll tell them, I'll actually tell them almost the opposite of what you're saying, but you and I are both getting the same point.
Uh-huh.
I'll tell them, take this personally. Like, take this personally. This is about you.
Yep.
And don't take it so personally or personally in a way that's going to trigger you and move you off where you need to be going.
Right.
Right. Because so many people then, kind of like what I mentioned, they try to blame, avoid, get upset, walk away, leave, versus what is this person saying to me? How can I learn from this? And how can I be better because of it?
Right.
It's the personal they should be taking.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And another aspect that I'm sure you do put this through is adversity. How do you handle adversity?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I mean, as you're going through with your companies, I'm sure some of the people that you coach or you consult with are in some kind of adversity at some point.
Right.
And that would be, and that's what you help to do to design something, right? Like that.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. So do you work with them in a period of time, or is it just like, is it,
When you say them, you mean like a corporate client?
oh yeah, a corporate client, right?
Yeah. So oftentimes what will happen is a corporate client will have like their succession planning won't be so strong and they need to develop better succession planning. Or two, they have a situation that is pretty dramatic, like how do we bring in AI to teams, and then how do we help those teams work across functions?
Right.
R&D, commercial, clinical, manufacturing, whatever it might be, supply chain. So I'll come in and I'll design a leadership program and an experience where leaders will learn to work across function, infuse, say, AI or infuse better financial thinking, and then also develop their leadership skills while working on a very strategic project for the company.
Okay.
So, as an example, a couple of weeks ago, I was working with a company and their delays in their system every day was costing them $1 million
Okay.
a day. And so the team had to really get their act together.
I'd
They
say,
didn't have delays,
right.
right? So that was pretty big. Um, so they work on very specific projects. They have a strategic importance to the company while they're also developing their leadership skills. And then sometimes they'll take 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, to work with a team through a particular project, developing their skills and helping them work across functions. That's generally the way we would work in design.
Right. Wow. Well, that sounds very interesting.
Yeah,
I mean, you're working with multi-million-dollar companies too, then.
correct. Correct. Yeah. Like a lot of Fortune 50, Fortune 500 companies have been our clients.
Wow. So is it companies basically you work with, no individuals?
Yes and no. So we'll
So
work.
you go through the individual to get to the company?
Correct. So, like in our programs, we'll often have anywhere from 15 to 35 individuals who are either executives or VPs or people being trained to be executives. There have been a couple times we've run programs for high potential hires, like high potentials who've just come out of college or graduate school, and they want to put them in a fast track to management. So we'll oftentimes work with individuals in that regard as well. Uh,
Okay.
so it just depends on the company and the situation.
Okay. Great.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. My next question, Greg, would be for most men on the road to business, professional success, other areas of their life get sacrificed. What's been one of the areas of your life, if it has, that has suffered?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, every part of my life has suffered at one point or another.
Okay.
From health to financial to family to kids, etc.
Right.
Because I think it's impossible to balance everything.
Right.
And generally a person will have one focus that they're really good at that won't suffer or be sacrificed, but will still take dings out of it. But as an example, right now, love my wife, love being with her. We have a great relationship, super happy with it.
Mhm.
We've been together for 10 years. She's just a wonderful woman. And on the weekends, I love to work. Like I'm focused on work and designing and putting things together. But I know if I do that, my relationship, my marriage is going to suffer. So I literally have to go to her and I say, look, let's map out our weekend so I know when I can do things and when we're going to be together so it doesn't suffer. And she's been
Right.
great about that and working on that. But, I have one focus, probably mostly comes from my parents. I love to work.
Right.
And I have to pay attention to when am I going to exercise and when am I going to be a husband, a good husband,
Right.
make sure I don't let those things suffer. But
Right.
that's so I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. But putting that, you say it's hard to balance everything, which is probably right. But at least you're taking the steps,
Mm-hmm.
okay, to approach your wife and say, hey, what do we have to do? I mean, that's at least you're cognizant of that and what you
Right.
have to do to balance, work and relationships.
Yeah,
Because
exactly. It
if you
helps.
did just your work, then your relationship would really, really suffer. Okay.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
and your health out as most people, then that was usually what the first thing that goes is their health. Okay.
Right.
Because they're putting so much into their work that they realize, hey, I'm not a machine.
Right. Right.
So
Exactly.
I've got to
Exactly.
do something. So, okay. If you were to give one piece of advice to other men, okay, on their journey of achieving success, what would it be? Would it be what you said in the beginning?
Yeah, I mean, those 3 points are pretty important, right? Building
Right.
relationships, etc. Um, and I would say, boy, there's just so many things, John.
I know this is why I do
It's
this
just like,
podcast because it does bring out people don't realize what they're thinking and doing. You know what I mean? I'm trying to reach out to people and say, yeah, this is what I am doing.
right. Well, I'll say this. I meditate every day for 30 to 45 minutes.
That was going to be my next question. Okay,
Yeah.
my
I
next question was where do you find where do you feel most at peace? And is that the meditation?
meditation is a big one. I try to finish my day with exercise. And if I don't have enough time to exercise, at least going over to the club and having a sauna just to think and reflect on the day.
Yeah,
And I realize that that's really quite a privilege to be able to have a full day, be able to meditate, start the day in that regard, and to be able to finish by going to a club. And
right.
when I look at the suffering around the world and what people are going through
Oh,
and what's happening, and I don't know why I'm getting emotional right now, but just to appreciate the gift of that is really remarkable. And so, from a success perspective, I think there's two things. I think one, make the most of what you have in terms of resources. And two, appreciate that whatever you have, there are some people in the world who are really suffering. And how do we help them? And how do we also see that what we have is very precious
right.
and be thankful for it and have gratitude for it? So that would be a couple of things I would suggest to anyone, but since we're talking about men, to men on their path to success.
Right. Okay. And the other thing is, and I'm sure it goes along with what you just said, is slowing down,
Mm,
slowing the mind down a little bit. Okay. And like you said, meditating is one of the best things, okay,
hmm
to slow that mind down and your body. I mean, once you start to slow that down, because everything starts up in the brain.
Right.
Okay.
It's interesting. So I work with the Human Performance Institute, and one of their first clients and things they figured out with Pete Sampras,
Oh, yeah.
the tennis player.
Yeah.
They discovered that when he turned his back on the net after a point, he would put his hands on the tennis racket and squeeze the laces. And they eventually discovered that and I don't even know if he realized he was doing this, but it was his way of letting go of the last point to get present for the next point. So he
Oh,
even had little rituals in the midst of the game to bring himself back to the moment.
right.
And I think that's something that's really important that athletes are getting better and better at with all the positive psychology and the work there with individual coaches. It's what I help executives do in the midst of a meeting or in the midst of a crisis or in the midst of a challenge.
Right.
marketplace. AI is a big one right now for some.
Yeah. Oh gosh,
So
yes.
finding ways for that and collectively for groups to do that. So how does a collective group take a step back to reflect and to slow things down? So
Right.
it's not so easy to teach individuals. It's even more difficult to teach groups.
Right.
But that's the goal now, especially with AI and the change of pace these days.
Mhm.
It's almost you need to take more steps back, even though the ego wants to push you to move faster and
Forward.
quickly.
Yeah.
So it's quite a dilemma for human beings and the mind and the equipment we've been given.
Right. And meditation has been one of the biggest things in my profession right now. I mean, that's one of the major things that we're taught, to help people with
Mm-hmm.
is to calm the brain down, calm the mind down. I mean, getting into like cortisol and stuff like that, your hormones are just they're raging at all times. And if you can,
Right.
going back to the drugs that people are taking to try to reduce anxiety and trying to reduce everything, it's just astronomical. And if we could do it naturally, and that's what I am, I'm holistic. I want things to be done naturally. Okay, where we don't have to put foreign things in our body because it wasn't meant to have foreign things in it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So we're on that same page with meditation and sauna and everything else. Because when you're in the sauna, you're doing almost the same thing. You're meditating as that you're sitting there or laying down. I mean, again,
Exactly.
it's so good for the body. So, well, I'd like to thank you, Greg. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. And thank you for taking the time. The insights that you brought up to us today are very good. And I'm sure my audience would love it. Okay.
Thank you,
Well,
John. Great to be
you're
here.
welcome. And as a reminder to everyone listening to the show, it's brought to you by the Prime Performance Method, where I help high-performing men rebuild their strength, energy, and confidence without sacrificing their careers. If you feel ready and get strong and be successful in your business, message me at John Fayocavitz on LinkedIn. Until next episode, perform strong in all areas of your life.